Hi all, Marky and John here with the Exiles, and today we're going to talk about the 19th play of the Gioco Stretto. This is a very old working document we have from 2005, 2006, but this is a redraw at the time as copyrighted images, but this is a redraw. Now, I point this out to you because, well, there's two things really. One, this play, which we'll explore and we'll do now, is in my view the coolest play in the manuscript. But two, there's a whole bunch of different ways to access this play, and that's the reason why I show the image, because you can access what's going to happen, which is effectively going to be a disarm. Like the setup to the 19th play, with the left arm coming over both arms, you can access this disarm from the 22nd play as well, which is taking hold of their pommel but doing the disarm. You can access it from this play, you can access it from that one, kind of from this one if the weapon stays high. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to access this play, and that's exactly what we do. So to begin with, we actually access this principle from all of those different setups, and that constitutes one of our gradings. But we're going to do it in a very basic, very simple way, because what I really want to focus on is the actual disarm. Okay, well, so we'll do that now. What I'm doing here is I'm going to lift up with the pommel, use this wrap, and just pull it all in together. So we're up, we're over. If I can get this nice and explosive, what I want to do is put it under his palms like this, which gives me the disarm. So we're going to go through the play, just give it a bit of an analysis, if you like, talk about it. We're going to do it with steel slowly, but we're actually going to do it with foam swords. We've just done a video with foams. So sometimes foams have a bit of a use, especially if you haven't brought any protection with you. So, masks, in this case, groin protection, and I'll show you why. But also, it's not nice to drop these on dirt, and it's certainly not nice to have them rattling around on the floor of a training hall. So in instances like this, foam swords are pretty useful. So we'll keep swapping sides because I want to show you the entry. So we're going to do a very basic entry to this to start off with, okay? Now with the play, the left foot is coming forward, but I'm stretto, which means for the initial engagement, I would have been right foot forward, okay? Because generally, I'm right foot forward with stretto because he stepped into me and I've stepped into him. If I hadn't stepped, we'd be at largo, and that's important, okay? So we're nice and close on the bind, okay? Close enough where I can come over with the arms. So that's it from that side. And I'm going to be coming over with the hands like this, okay? So if we swap sides now, because it's important that you see the turn. So cut comes in, up I come. Now I'm coming out into kind of loose posta frontale. I could have covered it in a couple of different ways. I just want to make that point. So now the left foot comes forward, which gives us the image, and I'm just dropping this arm over here. I'm starting to lose control of his weapon, but that's perfect for me, okay? What I'm doing here is I'm going to lift up with the pommel, use this wrap, and just pull it all in together as I come out. Now I do that slowly because we don't want to get all mud and crap on the swords. So just go through it again slowly. We're up, we're coming in down the line with the step, turning this over, okay? Now, keep your hand there, John. This is one of the reasons why we don't like to cross our hands very often with this system, okay? Because with crossed hands, it's very hard to maintain control. It's exactly the same principle with this. I'm wrapping this just to keep them in, but because the arms are crossed, I'm going to basically disarm that weapon. Okay, I'm going to take that and disarm that weapon. The reason why it's important to have some groin protection if you're practicing this with sharps is because it's not uncommon to catch their quillon or something of your own weapon, or to pass this between your legs, okay? So if you're a male or a female, you may want to wear something down there just to protect you if you're going to do this at speed. We're going to switch to foams. So in it comes, I'm here, I'm over the top, and I'm just pulling that around, okay? I'm keeping nice and close to the body. If you look at the follow-on image, we're effectively back to back, okay? We're up, we're over the top, and we're effectively like back to back, okay? And then from here, obviously, I can do a number of different things. A cut is an option, but I have to let him go. My preference is just to do this, which is nice and simple, nice and straightforward. Okay, so if we do that from the other side, I mean, I could come from a multitude of different places, but look, here we go, there's that, and that's the leveraged. Arms are crossed, It's the pommel hooking in, and I'm basically blocking his arms against my body, and I'm just pulling this back into my own pocket, okay? The reason why it's useful is because that gives, to think about going into the pocket, is because that gives me the right angle to do the disarm, yeah? If you, hold on to that again, if I just think about pulling this across, it's actually a little bit more difficult. What I want to do is pull it under his arms like this, which gives me the disarm. Straight off the bat, I'm going to say that this might be the weirdest thing you've seen today. This is an exercise that I sometimes do with some people to help with the angle of their attacks, specifically in this case fendentes and satanis, and also their edge alignment. When we're cutting, we want good edge alignment, and we want good edge alignment from the beginning of our cut right the way through as far as we can, okay? The exercise that I do sometimes, again with some people, is I actually get them to swap their weapon around like this, which is the sort of thing I would look at if I were you, and I would think, that looks a bit stupid. But trust me, this works. It has a time and a place. So by swapping the weapon around, it helps with edge alignment and it helps with my angle. It just so happens that with fendentes, which go from teeth to knee, my downward attacks, and it just so happens that this, holding the sword like this, for this exercise actually lends itself really well to the angles that Fiore is looking for. So if I'm in posta di donna, if I just cut out, okay, with a fendente, and I'll just stop halfway through the action, what you'll notice is that the sword it doesn't bend, okay, there's no flex to the weapon, okay. If my edge alignment is rubbish, okay, the weapon will bend. The other thing it helps with is people coming in too shallow, more of a Mazzano strike, which isn't wrong, but the trouble with sometimes doing Mazzano strikes, more flat like this, is that sometimes it's hard to form a good incrusada, and sometimes it's hard to access certain plays where you want to go in with a fendente to make an opening, to make a cover. And the temptation sometimes is that people come in too flat, more of a Mazzano strike. By doing this, you can help people to understand where that's happening, because if I throw this in too shallow, again, the weapon is bending, okay? Because it's more of a Mazzano type, yeah, it's more of a Mazzano type angle, as opposed to a fendente, which just so happens to mean that my sword is straight if I've got it this way around. So that's the play, that's the technique, or at least a version of it. As I say, there's a whole bunch of different ways to get to this action. I can start to do it from like basic pommel grabs. I can start to do it after a turn of the arm. There's a whole bunch of different ways, and we do practice a lot of different entries into this play. But this is a very good play. It's got a very, very high success rate, okay? There are some videos out there where you'll see a very explosive turn of the body to get the disarm. If you're confident about making the bind and getting the turn, the more explosive you are with your turn, the better. But there's a risk, I'll show you that. So we're up, we're over. If I can get this nice and explosive, okay? Oh, you get used to doing this, by the way. Then obviously it's going to have a really high success rate. The only risk is, especially with metals, which slide around a little bit more, is maintaining the control throughout the turn, okay, the control of their sword. So for me, I tend to slow it down a little bit and tend to try and take my opponent around me a bit more. So I'm here, I tend to slow it down, and look, I tend to come a bit more circular like this, okay, rather than collapsing into it, because I might have missed the cover. Sorry, the bind. Now, instead of doing this, where I'm very tight and I'm making it nice and explosive, I tend to do this. I tend to come around like this a little bit more. Okay, I'm high up on the arms, still back to back, but I just find for me that just gives me a little bit more control. So that's the play. I think you'd agree, whether or not you think it's the coolest play in the manuscript, it certainly is a cool play. Works very, very well. So I hope that was useful, and until the next one. So, strikes come in, I've caught it perfectly though, I've grabbed it, but I'm now in distance, okay? Now let's say he's really talented at this and just none of this stuff's gonna work, right? Options, options, options. Don't underestimate the importance of this. Now, I'm a striking man at heart, as most of you know, but don't underestimate the importance of just pushing shit and getting stuff working, right? So that's exactly what you're gonna do now. You're gonna start off from here. Okay, you've got a couple of options depending on your in-depth knowledge of the system. You can either just do the first play, no problem, or you can try to wind on try and wind on a Libadura, no problem. But Nick's going to resist. So resist, 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 just push it ahead. Just see what happens. No, watch, no problem. Because give him something else to think about. You can apply that principle everywhere, right? Gav's not here today, but Gav's probably our biggest dude in barking. If he does a low stab, and I'm like this with my little fragile battered hands, I find it really hard to get disarms on Gav because he's so big, so I just boot him in the leg and then I'll do my disarm. Don't underestimate the importance of doing something different, okay? So in this context, we'll do it from, actually we'll do both, but anyway, first master first. Up here, get yourself all set up, nice and positioned perfectly, right? Try and find the first place, not happening. To be nice, just give him a push, but obviously, you know, you're going to chin him, right, gosh, and you're going to get it anyway, all right? Give it a go. But see how distracting just pushing the head is. You'll get it, you'll get a play, no problem.